Today we're playing Anthem in 2024. We're going to see how the game's doing 5 years later. Really, it hasn't changed much since the last time I talked about Anthem, which I think was back in 2022. Game hasn't received any updates since late 2019, so if you're hoping for some new content or whatever, it's not there. I'm sure you guys knew that, though. But if you didn't, yeah, they actually were supposed to give a huge update for the game, basically overhaul it and stop it from dying and to, revamp it, but it never happened. EA killed it, and they killed the game, and basically, even though it's still online, there really isn't much reason to play this game in 2024. At least if you're someone who's been playing this game, since it came out. There's really not much reason to go back to it if you already played the story and everything, and you've unlocked everything that there is to do, because when you've gone 5 years without any updates, it really is what are you going to do? I mean, maybe come back every once in a while for nostalgia, but actually getting into the game again, especially since you're not going to really find any friends to play it. That's really the big thing, too, is that this game focuses so much on co-op play and playing with people. You ain't going to find no one to play this game with in 2024, I'm just telling you. And even if you could, the fact that this game did not have crossplay when it came out was also a huge thing that killed it, because these days crossplay, is the thing. Everyone has friends on Xbox, PlayStation, PC, but when you don't have the option to have everyone together, and it's still separated by platform, then it's not a good thing. So it's not something that I would recommend unless it is on Game Pass, but even then, just having to install the game, and it's 100 gigabytes or some shit, and then you download it all that time, you boot up the game, and it's just not fun in 2024. It could be fun if you can actually find people. They're actually, if you try to join, a mission in the story, there, every once in a while, you will find people that will connect, and you actually will have a co-op experience, which is good. It's not completely dead. It's not like nobody is playing this game, but there are just hundreds, maybe even thousands of other co-op games that you can play that would be more fun and enjoyable in 2024. It's not like this game had PvP or anything like that. It's completely, it's co-op. You can also play by yourself if you want to, and if you can't find anyone to play with. But yeah, I mean, it kind of the way that the game kind of reminds me of, it reminds me a lot of Destiny in the terms of it being a looter shooter and having raids and all that kind of stuff. It really was trying to be EA's answer to Destiny, because it was very successful back then. Destiny 1, Destiny 2. Anthem didn't really do anything for anybody. People, it just didn't really care. It didn't light the world on fire, and it just kind of faded into obscurity after a while. I do think, though, that if they went through with the update, it was supposed to be called Anthem Next. It was a huge planned overhaul. There was going to be so much content. I think if they actually did it, there was actually a pretty good chance that people would have gotten back into the game, and the game actually would have taken off. Because people are oh, as soon as the game comes out and it's not successful, that automatically means it's dead. Not in this day and age. With the age of the live service, if it weren't for the online updates and, that being a way for developers to continue working on a game after it came out, then Rainbow Six Siege would have been a complete failure, because for the first at least 6 months of that game's life cycle, nobody wanted to play that game, and it had tons of negative reviews. Now it's one of the most successful FPS games of all time. It's fallen off over the past few years, but going from 2017, 2016 to 2019-ish, maybe 2018, and it had a good run for a few years. Rainbow Six Siege did, and there are so many other games. No Man's Sky is another great example of a game that at first failed, got tons and tons of negative reviews, to now being one of the most beloved live service games in the modern age of gaming, which is just incredible. So I do think that there's a chance that if they did the same thing with Anthem, it could have been successful, but EA was just nah, we're gonna put all our financial resources to Battlefield 2042 instead. Yeah, that worked out very well. I love that. How they actually had a lot of developers from other teams go over to Battlefield 2042. This was around 2019, 2020, and then of course leading to the release in 2021. And they were hyping it up yeah, we got all these people developing this game. It's going to be the greatest Battlefield of all time, and it was not. But we're not talking about Battlefield, but we are talking about EA and their stupidity, and that definitely applies to Anthem and the way that game was handled and the failure that Anthem ended up becoming. Can't recommend it that much in 2024. I know a lot of people may not like that because I know there are a lot of huge fans of Anthem, but even if you are a big fan of that game and you think that Anthem's amazing, it's underrated, whatever, you still have to admit that it's just like, for a game, it hasn't gotten any updates in 5 years. It has a very, very small player base. The community is very small. So it's like, is it really a game that you can recommend? Like, objectively speaking, I don't think you can. I mean, in my opinion, I think the story is pretty generic and not interesting at all. Like, you know, coming from BioWare, which is known for their amazing storytelling, it doesn't even hold a candle to the writing in the Mass Effect and Dragon Age series. It just doesn't. The gameplay is tight. Like, they really did put a lot of effort into the gameplay and the overall feel of the game. The whole jetpack flying is pretty cool, and all of that stuff. Like the fundamentals are there. They built a very good foundation, but they just didn't build the house up, you know? With this title, EA just tried so hard to chase the live service looter shooter trend, and, you know, like, it would be one thing if they stuck with it and they actually tried, but, like, it was not even, like, 6 months after the game came out. I believe the game came out in, like, March, maybe February of 2019. It was around that time. And then by September, there was no more content. Like, how can you expect a game to ever be successful if you give up on it so easily? Like, just because it's not an instant hit. Like, EA just fucking sucks, man. I feel so bad for the Anthem fans. I actually really do. Even though it wasn't really my cup of tea, I didn't love it that much. It's just like, damn, like, they just screwed the fans over so much, and the players and all that. Like, I don't know. But let me know what you guys think about Anthem in 2024, and if you still think it's worth it. I personally don't see much for it these days. Like, back in the day in 2019, you know, different story. But now, what's the point of spending hundreds upon hundreds of hours into grinding for, like, armor and shit that nobody cares about because nobody plays the game, you know what I mean?